You're listening to DraftKings Network.
Hey DraftKings fans, are you ready to elevate your game day snacking experience? This college football season, we're feeling the cheesiest with Cheez-It. That's right, delicious Cheez-It crackers not only satisfy your snack cravings for game day excitement, but they are also amplifying your football watching experience with a new daily fantasy sports game. Best of all, since Cheez-Its is made with 100% real cheese, the game is 100% free to play with a chance of winning real cash. Be sure to carefully select your favorite Cheez-It flavor to snack on. White cheddar, extra toasty, or maybe you're an OG fan, while you select your weekly players for college football's cheesiest challenge all season long. So snack and play like a champ with Cheez-It.
Age and eligibility restrictions apply. Void where prohibited. See DraftKings.com/Cheez-It for full details.
Stugotz, what an exciting collection of people we have today. Look at Ricky Williams, how happy he is. If you want,
he's always happy. Dan.
If you want private readings, astrology readings with Ricky Williams, you go to rickywilliams.life, and we're bringing in also another historical figure. Stormy Daniels is with us. She joins us from Tulsa. She's on a stand-up comedy tour. She has upcoming stops in Vegas on Friday, Palm Springs, and Hollywood.
Actually, Vegas got canceled.
Okay, I'm sorry.
What happened, Stormy? What happened to Vegas?
It's not on Vegas is fun. What happened to Vegas, Stormy?
Vegas was one of the ones that were giving us a little bit of a issue with venue security, and it's a long drive to get there from Tulsa. I'm on my tour bus, so
right.
But we did add St. Louis and some other dates.
All right, so you've got Palm Springs and Hollywood the weekend after Friday. You've got Denver, Indianapolis, and New York City. She's also got a voter registration effort at stormthevote.com. We'll get to that in a second. But she's a big fan of astrology. So we brought in our friend Ricky Williams. We haven't done this in a while, and we're going to do some astrological charts of the candidates and get Stormy's thoughts. What are you smirking about, Ricky? What is funny to you before we've gotten started here?
No, that is cool. It has been a while, but this is cool. It's going to be a fun conversation, so I'm just excited about it.
All right. What do you know, Stormy, about the chart of Donald J. Trump, born June 14th, 1946? We have an accurate time of birth, 10:54 a.m. in Jamaica, Queens, and that's during a lunar eclipse. So there's going to be some probable insanity on this thing. Do you know anything about the astrological chart of Donald Trump, Stormy?
I actually do. So I have an astrologist. Her name is Stephanie Iris Weiss. She's a sex astrologist, but she contacted me for the first time years ago, and I didn't know. And she's like, your chart is pretty wild when it's laid with Donald Trump's. First of all, he's a Gemini, and they're nuts. They have that split personality thing going on. But so his sun, and I believe it's my Mars, they're like squared opposite of each other. So basically, from the beginning, we are arch nemesis. And I'm sure Ricky knows a lot more about this than even I do, but he's got an unusual star that's sometimes referred to as a demonic star in his chart. Those are not my words. Those are the words of the astrologist. But yeah, we were supposed to like literally be battling heads from before we were even born, I guess. And I know that my Lilith goes against him pretty harsh too. But the other big one is that he has his Pluto, I think, says he has a lot of childhood trauma and abandonment issues, and he doesn't like to be wrong. And I don't think we've ever heard anything more true than that, right?
All right. Well, we're going to get the expertise of Ricky Williams here in a second. But Ricky, have you heard of sex astrologist? I have not heard of a sex astrologist before.
Yeah, I mean, there's astrologers for everything. Yeah.
Okay, so what do you see in Trump's chart that will add some context to what Stormy is saying there?
Well, the idea of not liking to be wrong. We no one really likes to, but I think it's more in Trump. There's a need to be right, and I think the downside of the need to be right is you only surround yourself with people who tell you you're right. And often you turn a blind eye to the places where you might be off a little bit. And the other thing inside is Trump was born just before a full moon. And what that means in astrology essentially is that the moon is on one side of the chart and the sun is on the opposite side of the chart. So it creates someone who even more, and it can aggravate the Gemini split personality, because literally you have a need to be right, powerful need to be right, but also Gemini split personalities. But the core of Gemini is really about curiosity, right? And it's the need to be heard. But if you're not curious enough to find out where you're not right, then you need to talk, right? But you just talk crap. And so I think that's what we're seeing with Trump. And the other thing, Trump is a Leo rising, and on the darker side of it, someone who can act like a dictator. And so when you add all those together, you can see what happens.
Ricky, that need to be right, is that also on Dan's chart?
Another important thing about Trump's... Yeah, it is. 100%.
Thank you.
100% it is.
Right, thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, there are some similarities. There's obviously differences. A chart doesn't describe a person. It describes the raw materials that a person is built of. And what they do with those raw materials are different. It's like Dan has the need to be right, but I'm a Gemini, right? And part of our friendship, right, is our debates back and forth, where I try to get him to see a different perspective. And sometimes it works, right? Sometimes it doesn't.
Donald Trump.
Yeah, he was whispering that in my ear. Donald Trump. The demonic symbol that Stormy Daniels is bringing up. What is that, Ricky, that she's talking about there?
I'm not exactly sure. It's the sex astrologers and the different specific types of astrologers, they use specific types of tools. What I can say about Trump's chart is he was born with the sun on an eclipse, but the sun was right next to the planet Uranus. And Uranus is the planet of breaking the rules, and there's a positive side of breaking the rules. There's a negative side of breaking the rules. And I'll leave it at that.
Stormy, you were saying?
I found it because I just texted her and asked her what it's called. And I don't know all the stars to be like not the big ones, but it's called the Algol, ALGOL. Are you familiar with that one?
No, I don't use fixed stars, but I don't
know. That's what she's telling me.
Stugotz is going to help us with something before we get to Kamala Harris's chart here in a second.
I know Al Grow.
Stugotz has he's got the top 5 athletes in sports who connote by their very names a storm on the horizon.
Yes.
Any outside looking in?
No, just a straight 5 here for Stormy.
All right,
yeah.
Number 5.
Mike Cloud.
Yeah. Number 4.
Tim Raines.
Number 3.
Brian Windhorst.
Number 2.
Windy. Dan Marley, Thunder Dan.
Number 1.
Hale Irwin.
Thank you.
You got it.
Excellent Al Grow reference as well. Kamala Harris was born October 20th, 1964. Again, we have an accurate birth time, 9:28 p.m. in Oakland, the night of a full moon. What information can you give Stormy Daniels about her chart, Ricky?
Okay, yeah, Kamala's chart is fascinating because, again, we have 2 candidates who were both born on a full moon, different full moons, with Trump, it's Sagittarius and Gemini, so it's more active and crazy, more chaotic. With Kamala, it's Libra and Aries, right? And so Libra is all about harmony and balance, and Aries is all about war, right? And I think of Kamala's life because, again, a chart just shows the raw materials. You have to put it on top of someone's lived experience, And for her to become successful, she's had to find that balance of when to speak up and say something and when to take a step back and relax. And also what I think is beautiful about her as a presidential candidate is that some people might argue that our country is in need of some more harmony and balance, someone that can help 2 different sides appreciate the truth that the other holds. And this is really the key of Libra, But also too much Libra, right? It's we balance too much. But her Aries moon, we know that she's a fighter.
Before Ricky gets out of here, would you like to ask Ricky anything?
Sure. Do we know what her rising is?
She's a Gemini rising. Yeah.
Gemini rising. Oh, okay. So there's a lot going on there. I know that I'm Pisces all the way through. Yeah. And my moon is is Scorpio, so I'm double
Scorpio.
water, which just means I cry a lot.
Yeah.
And then Sag, I believe, is my rising, and it's
Sag is
that's
your
the
rising. You
fire.
got it, right? Stormy is a perfect name for your chart. It really is.
All that water.
Well, all the water, but also Sagittarius, is like the need for adventure. So Sagittarius rules journeys overseas, right? And you think of someone in a storm, but on a boat, right? That's someone who really is down for the adventure. And when you were born,
Which is ironic because I'm actually terrified of cruises and big ships. Like I'm terrified of going on like a cruise.
Yeah. Well, right. There's other kinds of waves to ride, if you know what I mean. So also the planet Mars, which is the god of war, right, is next to your sun. So like I'll punch you in the face, right? This fiery nature. It's great. And looking at your chart and Donald Trump's chart, when I looked at the two charts, it made me think I need to create an algorithm for my app, right? That when two people meet and they're deciding if they're going to take that next step, is that they look at the app real quick and they see, is something big going to happen because of this meeting, or is it going to be something that I forget in a week, right? And that will inform us on where to make these decisions. And if astrologer looked at your chart and Donald Trump's chart, right, the day before you guys met, right, they'd say, watch out, right? If you guys have a meaningful interaction, it's going to turn into something really big.
Yeah, I wish I'd have had that information.
Anything else when you overlap the charts of Donald Trump and Stormy Daniels? You're saying much of this in some way could have been foretold.
Yeah, when you look at two charts, you want to see how many planets are activating each other. And when you look at Donald Trump and Stormy's charts, it's like everything is activating each other.
RickyWilliams.life is where you go if you want some personal reading. Before you leave, Ricky, Stormy, what would you, do you have any questions for Stormy before you leave, Ricky?
Just advice, is that you're put on this earth to be a truth teller, so don't ever be afraid.
Thank you, Ricky.
Thank you.
Good advice.
Yeah.
Good advice.
Words to live by.
Thank you. Stugotz, that's endorsed by Stugotz, a serial liar. RickyWilliams.life is where you go. Thank you, Ricky. We appreciate it. Before you go, though, Stormy, the transition into stand-up comedy, and when you say you're someone who cries a lot, I imagine much of what you've been through has been the ordeal of a lifetime.
That's an understatement. Probably the ordeal of many lifetimes. I don't know who I pissed off in a past life, but it must have been some sort of emperor or something, because this is insane. But like I said, it's life hands you oranges, and I've made orange juice.
Well said.
You're on a tour bus and a comedy tour. Like, explain to me how that journey happened.
I wrote a book called Full Disclosure in 2018, and it taught me two things. One, that a lot of people don't read. And two, the publishers really wanted to cut out a lot of the stories that I had been compiling over years. And originally, Donald Trump was in that book. He was just in a chapter about celebrities. He was like 2 pages. And somehow the publishers managed to create an entire book out of the worst 90 seconds of my life. So a lot of these like funny stories about being on the road, about being a stripper, about being a porn star, those got cut out. And my friend was like, well, you're such a good storyteller. Why don't you just do it on stage so that your words can't be altered? And I'm terrified of speaking in public, but I said, let's try this. And it was going really well. And I actually had an entire tour booked through Live Nation at the beginning of 2020, but then COVID happened. So that got canceled. And it's just now I'm getting back out there and doing some of these events again. Because I had to flee my home after being doxxed on the stand. So best way to do that is just, you've got to be on the bus anyway. You might as well go out there and do some stand-up dates. And we've got Palm Springs, Hollywood, the Denver Improv, Crackers, and Indianapolis. So you can get the links to all of this is on stormydaniels.com. And yes, that website is safe for work. There's no adult content on it. So if you go to stormydaniels.com, the front page has links to all the tickets and all the shows that we have coming up.
What have your last 4.5 months been like since you testified at the Donald Trump hush money trial?
Pretty intense. And that's the thing, is that people keep calling it the Stormy Daniels trial or the hush money trial. And it was about business records, falsification of business records. And I can't tell you how intense and crazy the death threats and things have been. People are like, oh, you need to drop these charges. I'm like, I didn't create these charges. I'm not the prosecution. I'm a witness. I was subpoenaed as well. But the media likes to say Stormy Daniels trial because it's salacious and it's exciting. It's way more exciting than, the box of documents trial. And so it's garnered a lot of intense hate. And the New York Post actually doxed me while I was still on the stand testifying. And somebody came to my house. My animals were attacked. So we fled home and we've been living on the bus. So I was like, well, I got to do something. I got to get my voice out there and my side of the story really told. And I combined it with my Storm the Vote efforts and just trying to make the best of the situation, I guess.
Stormy, who is that person in your traveling comedy RV that keeps opening and closing doors and isn't respecting your
That's my
space?
husband, and I keep glaring at him, but he's not listening.
He doesn't care.
He doesn't care. He's going to keep doing that. You reprimand him when we get off here. Which of your recollections, when you think back 18 years ago to the celebrity golf tournament in Lake Tahoe, strikes you as the most bizarre?
Oh, my goodness. Besides the obvious, besides
Tony Romo,
when I came out of that house to find Donald Trump doing his best Burt Reynolds impression in his underwear. The whole thing was pretty severe. And I also, trust me, the irony and the hilarity of the fact that I was there with an adult film company and they were sponsoring a hole is not lost on me.
I was thinking that perhaps the magazine he handed you with himself on the cover, like that was, I thought that was pretty amazing. That detail was pretty amazing. But you obviously, you're more qualified here than I am.
Slightly.
You know what? And the fact that I did snoop through his toiletries on the bathroom counter, and I think that a man of that, that amount of money and stuff would buy products better than Old Spice and Pert Plus, but it also kind of sums up him in general, right?
I got to tell you, I love Old Spice. I mean, I do. It's fantastic.
But generally,
I'm with you on Pert.
Yes, generally though, when it comes to billionaires, it's generally not Old Spice. Stormy, before I let you go on this note, can you tell me, because many people who go through very difficult things and grow through the pain of those things don't regret having done those things. So if I give you a do-over, what do you do differently, if anything at all?
If I could do something over, I would not have gone to the room. Everything that happened to me after that was not my fault. I have maintained that I was not attacked or part of the Me Too thing, but that's only because I didn't say no. I just froze. And then my choice to speak out and to keep fighting and to go to court and testify, which was one of the most horrific and terrifying things I've ever done. It's very intimidating, and all the death threats and the things that I've lost, the time I've lost with my daughter, the amounts of money that it has cost, and and the stigma that is placed on me and my friends and family. If I would still do all of that over because I spoke the truth and I stood up, and it's something I want my daughter to be proud of. But if I could go even further back, I would have said absolutely not to being invited to that hotel room.
Kathy Griffin talks about her experience with Trump and really describes PTSD. I imagine you feel something similar, right? Like this is a mental health calamity that you probably don't ever really overcome in totality.
No, and in her case, she and I are friends now. We became friends about this, and we talk about a lot of that, the treatment things that she's had to go through. I think she lost a great deal of money. She was put on a no-fly list. She was, all the same things that happened to me happened to her. I think the only slight advantage that I had was that because I came from the adult industry, the things that they were saying about me on a personal level, I had heard 1,000 times. And, what are you going to do? Kick me out of, I wasn't mainstream. I didn't have a job that I could get fired from like she could at the time. It's a lot easier to cancel somebody who is mainstream than someone who works in the adult business. And, what are you going to do? Leak unflattering nude photos of me? As long as they paid their $29.99 to join my site and see my butt, who cares? So a lot of that sluts and whore and you must have diseases and all that stuff. I had already heard that for so many years, just coming from being a dancer and an adult film actress, that I was a little more ahead of the curve if I was someone who hadn't come from the adult industry.
Stormthevote.com is where you should go if you want to make a difference democratically. Stormy, thank you for making the time. We do appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Stormy.
I can't believe I'm saying this, though. In the ingredients that we have here for what is an unusual interview, the most unusual thing throughout it is that Mike Ryan's only contribution to it was to text Stugotz a photo of Al Groh. Former Jets coach Al Groh.
Always there for you.
There wasn't enough going on during that interview.
Oh, I enjoyed it. I mean, I had a big smile on my face when Mike sent me that picture.
We made an Al Groh joke today. Good work was done.